Chapter 7. Phil's point of view.
The knocking became banging, desperately banging on the door. Then somebody finally spoke.
Phil! Phil, are you in there?
Dan? It was Dan's voice. But that just makes it worse. I don't want anyone to see me like this, especially him. I'm a mess. I'm just recovering from a panic attack. I can't stand to see somebody running away from me. I can't stand it. I stumble up and decide on opening it or not.
Please, kitten. For me? Please, Phil.
He pleads desperately.
Please, Phil, I need to know if you're okay.
I hesitate before unwillingly unlocking the door. He sighs sadly, seeing my face. Instead of running away, he walks forward and wipes my teary eyes, kissing my forehead.
Are you okay?
He asks quietly, staring into my eyes. I shake my head, unable to write anything because I left my notepad and pen back in class. Dan takes out his phone, opening his notes, giving it to me. How did you find me? I type.
I saw you running across my class and you looked sick. Come on, let's sit down.
Dan whispers gently, leading me out of the cubicle and sitting on the floor outside of it with me.
Want to talk about it again?
Dan asked, taking his hand into mine and stroking it with his thumb. I shake my head, raising my knees up to my chest protectively, wrapping my arms around them. Please, I do not wish to talk about it, Dan. Please, I hastily type. Dan frowns but nods understandingly. He wraps his arms around my shoulders, making me flinch before melting into his comforting touch.
Phil, I want to be the one that will make you talk someday,
he says quietly. I nod, hugging Dan tighter and clutching desperately at his shirt, just needing some comfort.
Just like how I made you laugh. You were so fucking adorable how giggly you were.
I look up and smile, shaking my head.
You were, though. Still don't believe me, huh?
I nod sadly, looking down, but he uses his finger to tilt my head back up to face him.
But seriously, Phil, you never answered my question.
Dan says sternly. I tilt my head to a side, looking confused.
You never told me what you would do if your parents turned into pigs. This is a serious question, Philip,
he exclaims, making me let out a small giggle quietly, trying to raise my hand to cover my mouth. However, Dan stops my hand and smiles sweetly.
Did you know that when you laugh, your tongue poked out?
I type, I know, I hate it. That's why I always try and cover it up. Sorry.
But I love it, you numpy. It's cute, okay? And I get to hear a tiny bit of your voice when you laugh, which is even better. And I love your smile. Oh my fucking god, every time I see it, my heart melts and skips a beat, and at the same time. You basically make my heart give deformed, Phil Lester.
I laugh louder, not covering my mouth at the moment, not really caring that he could hear my voice through my laughter. I then smile happily at him, typing a reply for him to read. You deformed my heart too, Daniel Howell. I like you very much.
Chapter 8. Phil's point of view.
It was a few months later after that panic attack. Of course they didn't go away. They just never occurred when Dan was close by, mainly because I didn't want him to worry. Not that I could even control them. It's so weird to think about the short period of time Dan and I have known each other for, and in that time, our friendship has become much stronger. Also, our families have met each other by dinner every Saturday around each other's places, so now I know his whole family very well and vice versa. I'm not very sure what Dan and I are. Are we boyfriends? Or friends with benefits? I'm really hoping the first one and dreading the second one. Since we don't really know, our families doesn't either. However, if we didn't happen to announce our relationship to them, I doubt they would be surprised. Both our families know of our sexualities and are fine with it. My parents didn't kick me out on the streets or abuse me. They comforted me and told me how proud they were. Both my mom and dad were extremely supportive, and I'm so lucky. And same goes for Dan. However, our parents do tease us about getting together. The small comments continued to grow as another month went by. After 4 months went by of knowing each other, which really felt like 2 years to me, when Dan's family was having dinner at ours, it felt like our parents were playing a game to see when we could confess our feelings for each other. It all started with my big brother Martin talking to Dan's little brother Adrian about school at the dinner table.
Someone in school fancies my friend,
Adrian said bluntly, stuffing some of the veggies on his plate into his mouth. Really? That happened in my school, too, Martin replied, sipping his glass of water. Well, they both like each other, but were too scared to tell one another in fear of being rejected. It's like skinny love.
I know. 2 people exactly like that,
Adrian exclaimed enthusiastically. Just then, my parents, along with Dan's, all turned to face us, who were coincidentally sitting right beside each other, both wide-eyed. Adrian turned to look at us, too, and chuckled.
Sounds a bit like Dan and Phil, huh? Shut up,
Dan said quietly, cheeks heating up in embarrassment.
Daniel, don't talk to your little brother like that.
Dan's mom scolded.
Sorry, Mom,
He replied sadly.
He's right anyway,
She smirked, turning to Dan's dad, who chuckled and rolled his eyes.
Ignore her, boys, but consider this a hint.
He chuckled. Dan frowned, playing with his food, making me also feel sad. Does he really not like the idea of us being together? No, of course not. But he said that I make his heart beat faster, and he gets butterflies. He only says that to cheer you up, you blubbering, pathetic baby. Disgusting. But he said, stop making yourself believe this shit. You're so fucking stupid. I stumbled out of my seat, looking pleading at my parents. Toilet? My mother asked as I nodded quickly. Yes, you are excused, she smiled, as I ran upstairs as fast as possible, obviously not needing the toilet, but just needing to calm myself and get away from all these thoughts again before I end up having another panic attack.
Dan's point of view. I waited for a few minutes before Phil to return, but he still didn't, and I began tapping anxiously on the table with my cutlery, subconsciously biting my lip. I finished the rest of my food and rushed upstairs after Phil, after putting my dish away neatly. The bathroom door was left ajar, and there Phil sat with his head buried low in his hands. I sat down next to him. Hey, kitten, you okay? I asked, stroking his arm comfortingly. Phil shook his head, letting out a quiet sob. No, why are you crying? Come here, I whispered, wrapping my arms around Phil. Why are you sad? Is it because of me? Phil nodded, sniffling slightly. Was it about all the teasing at dinner table? Do you really hate it? I can tell them to stop and say how much it's bothering you to them if you would like. Phil shook his head, looking up into my eyes. I stared right back into his glassy blue eyes, filled with tears. I don't see what's wrong, Phil. Shall I grab my phone for you to tell me? I asked, getting up, but Phil grabs my arm, shaking his head and tugging me back down, hugging me. So you want me to stay with you? Shall we go to your room? I asked gently, getting a small nod from Phil. We get up, and I walk to his room, not once losing the contact from our intertwined fingers. We reach his bed and sit down. Phil hugs me again, burying his head in my shoulder as if melting into my touch. We stayed like that for quite a while, me stroking his hair as he remains quiet as always, until...
Do you love me?
I hear a tiny voice croak out, and I immediately turn to Phil, my eyes wide. Did you just speak? Phil nodded, looking a little scared.
Do you?
Well, I do. I do love you. Is that what's been bothering you? I'm sorry I haven't said it. I guess I've just been unsure if you loved me back.
I do. I love you back so much. My love for you just hard to form in words. And I tried to tell you, but I get ever so scared. I hate depression because it makes me feel like this, and every time I try,
Phil squeaked quietly, covering his mouth with his hand. What happened? I asked worriedly.
I bit my tongue.
Phil sobbed. I awed quietly, hugging Phil comfortingly. You're so fucking cute. So, do you enjoy talking?
Only to you, not very much to anybody else. But I do not that much. I don't want to talk like this. Can I just occasionally talk to you? Only to you?
I nodded. Of course. I understand why there's no need for explaining. Can I just say, though, your voice is very beautiful. And low and deep and raspy, and I love it. I love your voice so much. It's really nice, I said dreamily.
Thank you. So you don't mind if it's on a rare occasion that I only talk? Only to you, though. It's just, I'm not ready. I'm still fighting my emotions, and sometimes my thoughts are against me. And please don't tell anybody about this. Only you.
I promise I won't tell a soul. I understand. And Phil?
Yes?
It makes butterflies appear in my stomach when you say only you, because it makes me feel so special and honored that every once in a while I will be able to hear your voice.
Thank you,
Phil replied, smiling and blushing deeply.
Dan, is it okay for me to stop talking now? I'm really tired from it, and it's not very used to it.
It's perfectly fine with me. But before you stop talking, until next time you wish to talk, answer one question for me. Do you love me?
Daniel James Howell, I love you.
Phil whispered, leaning forward and surprising me by pressing his soft lips to mine. The kiss lasted for a few seconds, but felt heavenly and so pure and sweet. After Phil shyly pulled apart, he grinned cheekily, cheeks bright red. You are very cute, I smile, booping his nose, making him giggle, feeling proud that I've gotten him out of the habit of covering his mouth when he laughs now. So the next time you'll talk is when you want to? But only to me, I asked, checking to make sure. Phil nodded, kissing my lips sweetly again. I let it all sink in. Everything that had happened. Phil finally talked. He finally fucking talked. And best of all, it was to me. And he might talk more in the future, if he feels like it. I guess he's not a very talkative person anyway, but still. I made Phil Lester talk. I said a little loudly, not loud enough for anybody to hear us downstairs. Phil grinned widely and nodded, placing another kiss on my cheek lovingly, as it was his way of showing affection besides his words. I can't believe it. I made you talk. I sighed happily. I can't believe it. Chapter 9, Third Person.
Dan and Phil decided to go back downstairs to join their families since they had left so abruptly.
Hello, boys. Are you okay?
Phil's mother asked worriedly as they both nodded. Adrian got up from the sofa where Phil's dad and Dan's sat along with Martin, walking close up to Dan.
You seem incredibly happy,
he said suspiciously.
Is that a sin?
Dan asked.
No, just saying. You have a goofy grin on your face,
he mocked, turning around and walking back to the sofa. Dan pouted sadly and Phil grabbed his hand, leading him into the empty kitchen. Dan looked at him strangely, and Phil leaned up since he was a little shorter than Dan and whispered into his ear quietly. I like your smile very much. Dan's smile grew wider, cheeks blushing bright red. Phil cheekily poked his dimple that he found ever so incredibly cute. Dan rolled his eyes and chuckled at Phil, bending down a little to kiss his lips. Phil eagerly kissed back, gently putting him closer by the neck and deepening the kiss. Eventually, they had both pulled apart for air, but kept their foreheads resting on each other's, each grinning widely. Phil interlocked his fingers with Dan's, leading him back to the living room where Dan's family were just about to leave. Dan said goodbye to them since he was staying over, and when they left, Dan and Phil walked over to Phil's parents. Earlier, Phil had asked Dan to tell his parents they were in a relationship for him, and they were both extremely nervous.
Mr. and Mrs. Lester?
Dan said shyly, both of them sitting down next to them.
Dan, we've said before, call us James and Lily.
She smiles, warmly making Dan snort.
Still, I find it ironic at that Harry Potter reference.
Lily asked, and Dan nodded, chuckling quietly.
James and Lily Potter?
Dan grinned, making Phil join in the laugh too. Dan turned to Phil, pulling a scary, wide-eyed face.
The boy who lived came to die,
he said in a scary tone, pretending to get a wand out and pointing it at Phil.
Expelliarmus!
Lily suddenly got out an imaginary wand too.
That's my son, you bitch,
she said in a cocky accent. Dan giggled.
That's my wife, you fiend,
James joined in, also laying out an imaginary wand. Avada Kedavra! He yelled, pointing his finger at Dan as he pretended to be affected and died dramatically. After all the laughter had finally died down, Dan cleared his throat again, grinning widely and feeling a lot less nervous.
Yeah, anyway, we have something to tell you. Phil and I are in a relationship, and I just wanted your permission to be his boyfriend,
Dan said quietly. There were a few minutes of dead, painful silence at first.
I knew it! On time, Roger, you told him!
James exclaimed, jumping up and grabbing his phone. He walked out the room and phoned Dan's dad, talking about some sort of bet.
He's so childish.
Lily shook her head.
Dan, if you couldn't already tell by your muggle battle, we like you very much and are perfectly fine with you dating our son. And we did suspect it at times.
She grinned cheekily. Dan nodded sheepishly.
Thank you,
he said quietly.
No problem. Now, would you like to watch the latest Sherlock episode?
She exclaimed. Phil rolled his eyes since that was the 5th time she had seen it. And sometimes Phil really did wonder if she was still a teen girl. And the same for his dad.
Of course,
Dan exclaimed. Halfway through the episode, Phil felt himself shiver slightly, hugging himself for warmth. Dan quickly took his office hoodie, handing it to Phil, for which he took gratefully, kissing his cheek happily. Phil easily slid into Dan's hoodie, which was large and extremely comfy for him. The sleeves went over quite a bit, but Phil simply scrunched that bit around his hand to keep his hands warm too. Thank you, Phil whispered, knowing only Dan would hear. When the episode had finished and credits rolled down the screen along with the wonderfully familiar tune, James, who had joined them in the middle of the episode, stretched his arms and yawned loudly.
I love Moriarty.
Dan grinned.
I love Sherlock,
James said happily.
I prefer John.
Lily giggled.
Dan Johnlock is my forever true ship,
she said proudly, making Phil cringe and blame Dan as he had taught her all these meanings to words. Dan nodded agreeingly.
Totally agree.
He chuckled. Phil sighed happily. He had the weirdest family and boyfriend ever. Oh yeah, so look at that. For the first time, I'm actually talking to you guys by myself and I'm not wearing white. Huh. How's it going, guys? Crazy Kira here. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe today for more. Also, please make sure to go check out our second channel so you guys can go watch the bloopers to these videos, because I'm not gonna lie, we spent a lot more time laughing and giggling than we actually did recording. It was a lot of fun though, so please excuse the screaming, my cousin is over. Okay, without further ado, I'm gonna let you guys check out a sneak peek of our bloopers, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye.
Cheeky leg.
Dude, right as I started the recording, you said that. So you guys are gonna hear that in our unrecorded.
No!
My cheeky leg.
We're still recording!
Here. Yippers. That's what I just said. I fucking give up every time I start the recording. You do something.